Yeah, right here.
Stand by.
Cash Money Records taking over for the 9-9 in the 2000. Girl, you working with some action. The bad jam, make a nigga spend his cash in. His last jam, who's round with the passion. The mad jam, you gon' ride in the jag gang. With that jam, you gon' fight your bag gang. A grass jam, got money, I can flash jam. The trash jam, I'm a beat, I'm a nigga jam. Pull the trigger jam, a player, a flipper jam. Red Billy jam, I'm a swinging bull jam. I'm the hood.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us here on National Sports as we are just about ready for yet another presentation of the NFL Team Breakdown segment here on Spreaker.com. Thank you for joining us alongside Stephen Hughes, MLB and National Football League analyst, and Robert Dieters, the commissioner of the entire National Sports radio station. I'm your host, Nick Rice, on a beautiful Thursday night here as guys, the Minnesota Vikings, an up-and-down season, came to a crashing halt just short of the playoffs. And for Minnesota, you have to believe that even with all the flux in the free agency department, this is still a team that can win. And we've been talking about it during the pregame or during the pre-show about what exactly we could expect out of these Vikings. And it sounds a lot like, especially based off of Steven's prediction, that hey, this defense can carry the load.
Yeah, it's a little bit iffy. Hopefully this team can, be led by Captain Mullen and Chad Greenwood on the defensive side of the ball. Hopefully we'll see a big improvement, especially with the hiring of a very defensive-heavy coach and the new head coach, Mike Zimmer, coming from Cincinnati. So, with Mike Zimmer coming, I expect a lot of this defense really improving from being one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL to in the middle, so, they're good enough so AP can help the way for more Vikings wins than last year.
Yeah, obviously the passing game for the Vikings and the pass defense was far below expectations, where they only rallied 12 interceptions. They only tallied a dozen picks during the entire season, which was towards the bottom of the league, far below how many their opponents were getting on the Vikings, given that that passing offense, Robert, 18 touchdowns and 19 picks among all the quarterbacks that started last year, Matt Castle, Josh Freeman. Now you plug in potentially a rookie quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, and even if that isn't the case, Matt Castle, you got to believe, might have a little bit better of a year. When you hit rock bottom like that, you can't go anywhere but up.
I feel like every NFL team we have, pretty much breaking down, they've always had, some teams have really had that quarterback issue. You see Ponder, you see Matt Castle, and you see Josh Freeman on the board. You had 3 QBs start the season. Usually that team won't do very well because they don't even know who their starting QB is yet. But when you go in the competition for 2014, Matt Castle, watch out. Teddy Bridgewater is going to make an impact at training camp. He's a hard worker and will do anything to get that starting job.
Obviously, this is going to be a huge quarterback battle, and this basically begs the question as to who is going to start in 2014. Teddy Bridgewater, the Louisville quarterback, comes in as the 32nd overall pick. The Vikings traded back into the first round to select this fine young man who I thought was the best quarterback of the draft, similar to an E.J. Manuel, who not many people were looking high of. I mean, whether it be a poor workout, pro day, whether they just didn't think he had the arm strength to compete in the NFC North. They grab him with the 32nd overall pick. I want to bring in Steven one more time. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Teddy Bridgewater, is he a capable day one starter for the Vikings?
No, I don't think so. I think the Vikings should take the similar route that the Browns are taking. The Vikings are not in the situation that the Browns are in. The Browns are in a situation where they already have a starter in Brian Hoyer, and Johnny Manziel just needs to work his way through. If Brian Hoyer doesn't work, then maybe throw in Johnny Manziel as the season progresses. But for right now, it's a little bit different with the Vikings. It's an open competition. Sources have said that Matt Castle is now is taking first team snaps. Teddy Bridgewater, in my opinion, that's the right decision for Mike Zimmer. I think Teddy Bridgewater will probably need a year to adapt to the league before any discussion could be put abroad that he's an immediate starter for an NFL franchise.
I'm definitely surprised. You look at the Vikings offense, they actually ranked 13th in the league, which isn't half bad. They beat a number of real good offenses there during the 2013 season. I mean, they're better than the Falcons, the Colts. Statistically, they ranked higher than the Seahawks and the Steelers. I mean, this isn't that bad of an offense when you throw in an Adrian Peterson and company. No Toby Gerhart, but still a really good offensive line there, along with a receiving core that isn't half bad. Greg Jennings leading that team in receiving yards during the 2013 season. Robert, I know we were talking a little bit about Teddy Bridgewater and Matt Castle potentially. I mean, you can even throw in a Ponder one more time, but as you look at this quarterback depth chart right now, I mean, does Teddy Bridgewater even have a shot?
I think he has a shot over Christian Ponder for the second string spot. I think if you keep Teddy Bridgewater in the second string, he's going to learn a lot from Matt Castle, just from being a pocket passer. And Nick, I know we talked about this in Cleveland. We talked about it with Cleveland Browns, Brian Hoyer versus a Johnny Manziel. I think it's kind of like a Matt Castle versus a Teddy Bridgewater in a way. As Steven mentioned, Teddy Bridgewater is going to run the ball, can take some risks, just like a Johnny Football can. And I think you want to give Matt Castle at least the starting job at least one more year, see how the Vikings do. But Nick, the receiver core, not bad at all. I mean, Greg Jennings and Jerome System really led the pack there. And, Nick, I'm not too disappointed in this wide receiver core. Greg Jennings over 800 yards in receiving, Jerome Simpson 726 receiving yards. And then you also throw in a Cordero Patterson, his rookie season. Pretty much about average for a rookie wide receiver. And I like how these guys are kind of just underrated because, Greg Jennings really just proved himself in that wide receiver core. And Matt Castle, that's going to be his main target next season. I'm going to see Cordero Patterson just improve a lot more.
I really like what the Vikings are doing by surrounding their quarterback with talent, but I mean, I've felt extremely bad for the Vikings, Adrian Peterson, for quite some time because he's had close to no help there for a number of years. He rushed for 2,000 yards, and they barely got into the playoffs. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, if there was on half the other teams in the league, they would go at least 12 or 13 wins. I mean, basically, Adrian has been in a real tough predicament. But now there's talent coming around this team. And as we take an initial look at the Vikings transactions period, I guess we're going back and forth here. Steven, I would like to I don't know if you've taken much of a look about the transactions, but there are a number of key additions that the Vikings had. I understand that Jared Allen is no longer there, but there are some guys that, I mean, we think can step up, especially with a Captain Munnerlyn they signed in free agency.
Yeah, Captain Munnerlyn is someone that you should really take a look at. His stats really pop out to you, and he'll be a big addition to a team that has really struggled with passing defense in the last couple of seasons. Got with a couple interceptions, 3 sacks. He also blitzed really well at the cornerback position. A lot of things on him, and then the transactions also lead to the NFL draft. Anthony Barr, great pick. Linebacking core that is pretty weak, but is led by a good Chad Greenway. But Anthony Barr just makes it a little bit stronger, and hopefully his potential translates from UCLA to the Metrodome over there in Minnesota. But not a lot of huge names, not a big blockbuster deal that went on with this team. They re-signed Matt Castle. Matt Castle went on free agency for a while. It didn't look like the Vikings were going. The Vikings were trying to get after him. He wasn't budging. He wanted a little bit more money. The Vikings budged, and they get him back. Then they also re-signed Matt Asiata. They didn't re-sign Toby Gerhart. Gerhart is now in Jacksonville. So it's it's a win-lose type of thing. But at the end of the day, I feel like the Vikings bring in players that they're gonna have an impact. They feel like that's in the best case for them. And from the draft, they picked two great first round picks in Anthony Barr and Teddy Bridgewater. And they also picked a good offensive lineman, in my opinion, in the 5th round with David Yankee.
Obviously, the draft, the Vikings have played very well in that category the last couple of years. You look at that defensive front line, Sharif Floyd, their last year first-round draft pick, should come in and make a pretty big impact. Overall, Robert, when you look at the transactions for this year, what stands out at you the most? Especially as, this is a team that's trying to get to the next level, and when you look down the list, there's not a whole lot there.
Well, I think one position you guys kind of left out was the left defensive tackle, Linval Joseph. He's coming off. I think he's coming off a pretty solid season for the New York Giants. I know they struggled, but besides that, 59 tackles, 3 sacks last season, and a fumble recovery. And I think he's really going to help this D-line when you have a Sharif, Floyd, Everson Griffin, and Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson, 9 sacks. Linval Joseph, you have 3 sacks. Sharif Floyd going into his second year, 2.5 sacks. And Everson Griffin, 5.5. And this team is going to be pressuring that quarterback a lot next season. And watch out, because that D-line is going to be pretty freaking scary.
Defensive front 4 is Brian Robinson. We talked a little bit about Anthony Barr, and even if he takes a while to progress to the next level, he's changing positions, and he's only played football for a couple of years. Brian Robinson, Linval Joseph, Sharif Floyd, and Everson Griffin are your penciled-in front 4 guys for the 2014 season. And then you could throw in an Anthony Barr. It's a great position for Barr to be behind Brian Robinson, who, had nearly double-digit sacks just last season. And not many people heard of him because he was not even playing all the snaps because he was alongside a Jared Allen. And they were still trying to get Everson Griffin his playing time. So it's awfully interesting there. When you look at this defense, I don't know if they will exactly love getting rid of a Jared Allen, but I'm sure, Steven, you're looking at this defensive front 11, and you're saying, look, I understand your best sack master is down, but you replace some talent with maybe some even better young talent.
Yeah, I think the way the load is spread out more when Jared Allen leaves, and you have guys like Everson Griffin and Brian Robinson really controlling the two ends and being an equal force in a way to Jared Allen, and that's what Mike Zimmer really wants out of this defensive team. He wanted to ramp it up, and this defensive line, here for Minnesota fans hearing that Jared Allen leaves, the defensive line sounds like a joke. It sounds like, hey, this defensive line will never be the same without Jared Allen. But at the same time, one season hasn't even passed since Allen's departure, and already heading into the training camp, we're looking at a really good defensive line, and I feel like Sharif Floyd should improve a lot more. Just only 19 sacks last year, 19 tackles and 2.5 sacks last year. I think that a little bit more logo goes towards him, just the expectations and the potential that he has, coming from the draft last year and, making an impact here in the second season.
You look at statistically that defense, the leader in interceptions was a linebacker, Chad Greenway. I mentioned this is a team that only had 12 interceptions, and 3 of them came by one linebacker, Aaron Henderson, the other linebacker with the other 2. And the only defensive back player that had more than 1 pick was Harrison Smith, who I think is an up-and-coming superstar out of Notre Dame. Overall, that defense looks to be pretty good, though, Stephen, as you mentioned, solid following the Jared Allen's departure, because understandably, Allen only has 11.5 sacks, but a lot of the top defenses in the NFL don't have one superstar player. They have a number of contributors there on the defensive front. Just look at the Niners and the Seahawks last year. There's not one guy who you can count on every down to be on the field and sack the quarterback. I mean, obviously Aldon Smith is great, but I mean he's not on the field all 16 games either. But you look overall at the top defenses in the league, and those are teams that have 3 or 4 linemen that can really get after the quarterback, not just one, which makes it very interesting to see if Robeson can step up to the plate, and also Everson Griffin as well. Offensive side of the ball, another quick look at this one. You look at the depth chart and a couple of the key notable players that should be able to progress from their young campaign to becoming a cognate in the offense. Cordero Patterson, the wide receiver, should become the number 1 target here in the next few years. And Matt Khalil, one of the most underrated left tackles in the game. You look at the offense, and guys, I think it's pretty good.
Nick, I see this offense, and you have Adrian Peterson, who's the second best running back in the game so far. I think LaShawn McCoy is number 1. Anyone can argue that. But when you have a tight end like Kyle Rudolph, who really makes a big contribute to this squad, I think the tight end position looks pretty good. Then you have Greg Jennings, who came from Green Bay to Minnesota and really showed off his talent. And Matt Castle, really, that was just his guy. But Cordell Patterson, coming into his second year, I think can really improve. I think he's going to get over 600 yards receiving and just keep on getting better and better every season. I think he's got to get more situated with the Vikings, but I think his second season is going to be much more of an improvement. Jerome Simpson, not a bad season, all 726 receiving yards. Give this guy credit. I know he's kind of an underrated type of guy, but still made an impact on a team that no one thought had a really good wide receiver core.
Oh, you look overall at that receiving core, pretty solid, and that offensive line looks pretty good as well with Phil Loadholt anchoring those 2 tackle positions. And I mean, Steven, your thoughts? This is a great offense that may have gotten better with a couple of free agent additions.
Yeah, definitely. Just looking over, just not just free agent signings from this past offseason, but from off seasons ago. I feel like the picking up of Greg Jennings was, I think, in my opinion, is big. He's getting old. He's not making a bigger impact than he was, let's say 5 years ago. But at the same time, he provides a veteran, leadership that is not really evident on the offensive side of the ball. Adrian Peterson is definitely one. Matt Castle's another one. But after that, Matt Khalil, he's I think he's like his second or third year in the league right now. Christian Ponder, who in my opinion really needs to leave Minnesota because he's not going to get a shot playing anymore now here in Minnesota. He needs to go, but he's young. Teddy Bridgewater is a rookie. Just looking over his list, but I think Jennings is the real true offensive leader of this team. Matt Castle has to lead the way probably at quarterback. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater will be ready, but I feel like Matt Castle has a lot of good weapons to look at. Kyle Rudolph, hopefully his numbers will improve from last year, only 313 receiving yards. That was the case because of the mix of quarterbacks. Castle and Ponder and Josh Freeman platooning the entire year is not going to really help. And then Greg Jennings as well, Jerome Simpson, Cordell Patterson. Everybody's just going to probably pitch to lower than Adrian Peterson. Unarguably the best running back in the league. LaShawn McCoy I'm expecting a decent year of LaShawn McCoy. A lot of teams are going to be looking at him and really easily. I think it's going to be easier to, crack the option offense that Philadelphia has, but that's on a different note. Adrian Peterson, just the leader of this team, pretty much the true captain of this team. Greg Jennings, is an offset in my opinion, but Adrian Peterson, he took this team to a whole different level 2 seasons ago with his almost record-breaking season, and I think that he's going to come back and perform pretty well this year.
I mean, the Vikings are going to need to if they want to reach the playoffs. They rank number 8 in the NFL running the football, and it didn't help that bottom 10 passing attack, especially with the 19 interceptions and just 18 touchdowns. I mean, this team was actually not too bad in between the 20s, but once they reached the red zone, they were pretty atrocious, settling for a lot of field goals. It was an offense that just couldn't find the end zone. So when we look overall, we may start this depth chart grade, which I think is one of the better portions of the show. Make sure to tune in, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for joining us here on the NFL Team Breakdown segment. It's the Minnesota Vikings. We already took a look at the Green Bay Packers earlier. Maybe we can see if the Vikings can upend those Packers to steal the division. They were only about a game or two out during the 2013 season. But when you look at the depth chart, guys, starting with the quarterback position, Matt Castle, Christian Ponder, and Teddy Bridgewater all have a shot for the starting role. And we'll start with you, Robert Diers. Your thoughts on who exactly can pull ahead and your overall grade for the quarterback position.
I think they're going to go with veteran leadership like Matt Castle. Last season he didn't do too bad. He threw for 1,807 yards. And I think this guy is going to be the starter for the next 16 games next season. I think if they keep Matt Castle at that starting QB position, I think they're going to, maybe go like a 7-9, 8-8. But I don't think this team is ready yet to push it to the playoffs. I think Green Bay, what happens to Green Bay is they kind of slip in the next couple of years. Minnesota just keeps on getting more and more talent. Minnesota maybe takes that division in the next couple of years, but that's the future. Right now, Matt Castle's your starting QB. I give the grade a B-.
I'm going to give overall a C+. I mean, no matter who you put a quarterback, it's pales in comparison to Adrian Peterson. Steven, your grade?
For the offense?
Just for the quarterbacks.
Just for the quarterback. Overall, you go for a straight C. You don't know what to expect. Say Bridgewater from the NFL. I'm not saying that, it's too early to tell, but short quarterbacks have relatively done well in the past, 5 years, just like Russell Wilson and Drew Brees. But Teddy Bridgewater, definitely not ready yet for the NFL, in my opinion. I think it'll take some time, maybe a season, maybe less, maybe more. Christian Ponder, there's so many issues with him. It's unbelievable. He's been a big bust in the pick from 2011, I would believe. For the Vikings, has been a big buzz. And Matt Castle, had his one good year in New England when Tom Brady sat out. Went to Kansas City, didn't do anything there. Has come in here and has done a little bit. I give him a straight C. I don't expect a lot out of them. Hopefully, Castle has a little bit of production out of him, but it's mainly going to be Pearson from the offense.
I do want to add one point here before we move on. Matt Castle, a lot of people say that he had the great season with New England. Where has he come from? I understand that Castle actually had some pretty good statistics, but from 2007 when they go 18-0 to Castle having 11 wins the year after and missing the playoffs, that's 7 wins difference, ladies and gentlemen. That's huge. And all that happened was Tom Brady got hurt and you plug in the backup. I mean, it was the same ball club. They missed the playoffs. So I think either way, the Vikings really have a tough time at the quarterback position. I think a C is pretty good. Running back position, obviously, I think across the board, we can say it's about an A, at least, if not an A+ at this position. And the only reason why I think I'd take a knock and maybe put an A- in there, who are the backup players? Jerick McKinnon and Nat Asiata? Definitely not household names.
Asiata isn't too bad of a player. I mean, his stats weren't amazing, but, you don't have a Toby Gerhardt anymore that really helped out Adrian Peterson. And sometimes you're going to have Nat Asiata, who's the second string right now, really have to carry the load, but I think I'm going to give him an A-. I don't think the backups are ready just yet. I know you guys could disagree with me about that, but AP is still the second best running back in this league, and I think he might be the number one next season. I think he can really outbeat LaShawn McCoy.
He personally already has.
Okay. Wait. Before you get into that, I'm saying last season LaShawn McCoy had a better season than AP.
Well, never mind. You're trying to base your facts off one season, and maybe the following season you almost broke the NFL record for.
I'm just saying right now, Sean McCoy is the better running back.
Right now, alright, whatever. But I give this thing a B plus in my opinion. Adrian Peterson didn't have the best year. Only 1,266 yards, but it's only. I feel like he's gonna have a terrific year this year. In my opinion, he's gonna beat out LaShawn McCoy. McCoy is nothing else. The only reason why he's doing well is because he's a perfect fit for an offense that is provided only in one team, and that is in Philadelphia. But Adrian Peterson leads the way. I give this thing a B plus because, like you guys said, backups. I've never heard these names before, like Matt Asiata, Jarek McKinnon, a third-round pick out of Georgia Southern. Maybe he'll be on Matt Asiata. McKinnon had a really good game when the Georgia Southern team took on Florida, and he did really well. And then Joe Bannard. That's how I don't know them. I can't even pronounce their names. But Jarek McKinnon. He'll be in bounds for the backup spot, and I feel like he will beat out Asiata. And but after that, B plus in my opinion.
B plus is a solid grade. A fullback position, similar outcome. I think former Colts Jerome Felton deserves about a B plus there as well, anchoring a top 10 running attack. I will start with you, Steven. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, Jerome Felton. The fullback position never really looked at a lot in football, especially in the last, let's say, 15 years. Maybe it was like that more, back in the 80s. But right now, it's not really looked at. But at the same time, Felton provides as a great lead blocker for Adrian Peterson. In my opinion, I have a lot to expect out of him. Being the lead blocker, and then his backup, Zach Line. He only played in 3 games last year, but backup's a backup, and I think that Zach Line is decent enough to be a backup. So I'll give this fullback crew the same grade that you gave them, Nick Rice, and a B plus.
Robert, your thoughts on the fullback position? Jerome Felton, B plus.
Yeah, I'll give him a B plus. I think the fullback position is very important in the NFL. It helps out any running back in any situation. They just help you push more yards, and I think that's what helped out AP a lot with Toby Gerhart. It's going to be a B plus.
Looking at the wide receiver position, Greg Jennings, Cordero Patterson, and Jerome Simpson are penciled in as the top 3 players. Also, don't forget Jarius Wright. I believe he was a former Tennessee Titan. He should be a very good cognate there for that passing attack there in 2014. I think overall, especially with a long-time wily veteran from the Packers, Mr. Jennings anchors what I think is about a B overall grade for the wide receiver core. Robert, do you agree?
I think they're just going to be a consistent wide receiver core. I mean, you do have Matt Castle. Hopefully he can, really help maybe get better stats for the wide receiver core, because your quarterback pretty much results in what your wide receivers are going to look like. And I hope Matt Castle can get the job done this season, because as I said, he's probably going to be starter, so he pretty much needs to make Greg Jennings, Cordell Patterson, and Jerome Simpson look good this season. I'm going to give him about a B. I think they're going to be consistent.
Yeah, Steven?
You look at this wide receiver squad, and you like you guys said, Greg Jennings, Jerome Simpson, Cordell Patterson. A lot of people probably heard of one of those names, Greg Jennings, because he came over from another team, from the Packers, and I don't feel like this wide receiver core is at a B. I really don't think so. I believe that it's at a C plus, mainly because they don't have a good quarterback. It's not their fault that they're pretty good, to be honest. Cordell Patterson could be a lot better, and Jerome Simpson could be a lot better if they had consistent and a good quarterback. Platooning 4 quarterbacks last year was an absolute joke, and it made things really hectic for the wide receivers to really produce. And plus, you have Adrian Peterson, who's taking up half or maybe more than half of the offensive yards per game for Minnesota. So, it's not their fault, but it's a C+ for me from the wide receiver core.
I just want to make one more point before we move on. Cordell Patterson, I think, is gonna, as I said earlier, get about 600 yards in the season. I still believe he could do that. But I mean, Matt Castle has to, really just pretty much make throws to the wide receivers. Jerome Simpson, I agree with Steven on his point that he could be a better wide receiver just with a better quarterback, better than having 4 different QBs. And I don't get why what was up with the whole Josh Freeman thing. But besides that, I think this wide receiver core could be a lot better with a better quarterback.
Obviously, it's a real problem there. It also doesn't just affect the wide receiver position, but also the tight end position. Kyle Rudolph, the penciled-in starter, but also a guy I think is emerging as a valuable number 2 target is a Rhett Ellison. I overall give this team about a B at the tight end position as well. Steven, your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. Rhett Ellison, I feel like he has a lot to prove this year, being the second string. Kyle Rudolph, he does have a foot injury, but, nothing to be concerned about for Rudolph. I feel like he'll be ready for our training camp. And, Kyle Rudolph, I feel like the sky's the limit for him for the tight end position. He will not be as good as a Jimmy Graham or Rob Gronkowski. I can think of him more as like maybe an Antonio Gates of right now. Good production of blocking and receiving the ball. But Kyle Rudolph, he might lose some reps this year. Rhett Ellison, he's just a guy that you just cannot just leave on the sideline for an entire game. Rhett Ellison, I feel like the USC guy. I feel like he's got a lot to prove this year, and I feel like he's going to get a lot more snaps this year with the new head coach and a new mindset now from the head guy. Also look at Chase Ford. Chase Ford, maybe a third-string guy. He'll probably get in there if Rudolph and or Ellison get hurt. So we'll see what happens, but for me, my grade for tight end is a B-.
Boy, a little pessimistic there. Take a look at that offensive lineman, though. Matt Khalil and Phil Lodeholt, they anchor those tackle positions. John Sullivan, the center. Charlie Johnson, former Colt, comes over there for the Vikings. They re-signed him to a long-term deal. And also Brandon Fusco. A couple other free agents and draftees include Vladimir Dukas, former Jet, and Zach Karen. I know, Steven, you talked a little bit about him. He should be a backup center along with a David Yankee. They took him as well. A couple of interesting pieces already added to what looked to be a pretty good offensive line mix. I give him about a B+.
For me, this team is they've had a good offensive line in recent years. Let's go back to 5 years. They've had a consistent and good offensive line, leading the way for Adrian Peterson and other sorts of running backs during the time. But right now, I feel like this is the best offensive line I've seen, in terms of talent, in terms of production, and it's led the way by Matt Khalil, in my opinion. And with that, I feel like I'm going to give the offensive line a B+.
Robert, your thoughts on the tight end position and the offensive line?
Thank you, Nick. I know I've been kind of waiting here, but tight end position, I think I'm going to give them a B. I think they're going to get average production out of Matt Castle, but Kyle Rudolph, I like this kind of tight end. He's kind of a wide receiver, but can also help you run block. So give that a B. And then the O-line, I really like centers. I really like John Sullivan. He's really kind of a leader of that O-line and really helps protect the quarterback and AP as well. I think this is going to be a B- kind of O-line. They're not terrific. They're not horrible, but they're going to kind of be in the middle. I think I'll just give them a B-. But John Sullivan really just a big leader of that team, and he really had to deal with 4 different quarterbacks. So give that guy credit.
Obviously, that offense, when you look at it as a whole, overall grade is a B, which isn't that bad considering that the quarterback position is as atrocious as it currently stands. Taking a look at that defensive front, the top four guys, Brian Robinson, Linval Joseph, Sharif Floyd, and Everson Griffin. I think an overall solid defensive unit, throwing in Fred Evans, free agent acquisition, and Scott Crichton, who's another draftee who should provide some solid playing time. I mean, I don't think Anthony Barr is technically a defensive end, but even if he is, this is a defensive unit that's hard to get these guys off the field. I think overall it's a B-plus grade, in my opinion, and an up-and-coming superstar type of a unit.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. Robinson, Everson Griffin, Anthony Barr, and Chad Greenway, I feel like, in my opinion, will lead that 3-4 defense. And then Castellano was a great pickup. I feel like that bolsters tremendously. At Pat Stevens, like I said before, has been atrocious in the last couple of seasons. And then also look for, I feel like I want to see more production of Xavier Rhodes at the left cornerback position, and also from the strong safety, Jamarcus Sanford. So hopefully Sanford will lead the way. I'll go bold, and I'll do the same thing. You picked Nick Rice in a B+. I feel like this team, this defense has a lot to prove this year with, in my opinion, the best pickup for out of any NFC team for the secondary position. Casper Model, a big pickup for a team that in a big need for some.
All right. Well, at we're grading, are we grading the whole defense here?
The defense.
Because we're supposed to go position by position here, but we'll get all the grades in a minute. D-line, man, I can't wait to see these guys in action. I know the Vikings didn't really have a strong defense, but I think this year they're looking a lot better, especially Brian Robinson, 9 sacks last season. I know you lose a Jared Allen, but hey, I think this D-line will be just fine. A big free agent acquisition, I gotta say, Linval Joseph. No one really talks about this guy. I know he was on the New York Giants, but I think he'll make a giant impact. 59 tackles last season, and I think he's really just gonna help out and really just pretty much get to the running back. I know he can be a little bit of a pass rusher. Then Sharif Floyd, the second-year player out of Florida, I think he's gonna step it up this year. I think he's gonna get 4 sacks next season and I think he's only going to have like 28 to 29 tackles next season, but I think Sharif Floyd just keeps on getting better and better every season. Everson Griffin, always a terrific player out of USC, 5.5 sacks, 27 tackles. I think he can have about 6 or 7 next season. I give this defensive end, D-line, B+.
Linebacking core, Anthony Barr, definitely a project. The other two guys, a Jasper Brinkley and a Chad Greenway, who can lead the charge. A bunch of backups who I've never heard of before, but I think these are guys that can come in and run support, including Nadi Cole. Overall, I think a B- is a real solid grade because you don't know what you're getting out of an Anthony Barr. You don't know if it's the good or the bad. They think he's more of a third down specialist. Sounds a little bit like a Deion Jordan, who is, I believe, an up-and-coming bust as well. Steve, in your opinion? Left him speechless.
We were talking about, what were we talking about? I apologize.
Linebacking core.
Linebacking, linebackers, obviously, what to expect out of Anthony Barr. In Minnesota's view, the sky's the limit for him out of the linebacking spot. You said earlier that he has to change positions, so obviously that's going to be a cause for concern early on. We'll see probably a bit of struggle in preseason play, in full speed action. How does he fit in and change to the new position in an NFL game? And I feel like, like I said, it's going to take a little bit of time to get used to fit into the new spot, but I feel like it's going to prove to be pretty vital for this linebacking core. I can see him in the mix for the defensive rookie of the year. And for this linebacker core, I'll go big and say A minus because Chad Greenway and Anthony Barr. If Anthony Barr goes well, it's A minus. If Anthony Barr does not show a lot this year, I can say this linebacker core is more of a B.
Nick, I think I'm gonna I think I have to give my first C on this show. I gotta give him a C plus. You don't know what you're getting out of an Anthony Barr just yet. I know it's the Vikings' 9th round pick. They have high expectations. He is a pass rusher, and that really helps with their D line. I think you really gotta rely on a D line this year for the defense. Chad Greenway is probably gonna make a big impact. Probably over 100 tackles once again, and a couple more interceptions. But I think a C plus is pretty solid in my book.
We're continuing here on NFL team breakdowns with the quarterback or the cornerback DBs over there for the Minnesota Vikings as we get position by position in the books here. Xavier Rhodes should come in as the number 1 overall corner alongside a Captain Munnerlyn, 2 guys that can get it done there covering the football. Josh Robinson, an up-and-coming superstar type of a cornerback, and that's a 3-headed tandem. You throw in a Derek Hawks from San Diego and a couple other pieces, and you got yourself a real nice cornerback crew. I think a B- is a real favorable position for this Vikings team to be in. Cornerbacks, a B-.
I'm gonna go with a B. That's all I got really say. Captain Munnerlyn, big bolster to this team. And then Xavier Rhodes, like I said earlier, needs to, he's got to do more. He's got to improve and, bolster his talents and his performance during games. So, Xavier Rhodes, Captain Munnerlyn leading the way, and I'm going to have a B for the cornerbacks.
Robert?
I'm going to have to go with, I think I'm going to go with a B- because I think Xavier Rhodes is still an upcoming type of player. I know he had no picks last year, but he did break up about 29 passes last season. Not too bad. And Josh Robinson up and coming, but I think they're getting better and better. I think they're coming from a C- from last season to a C+. And Captain Munnerlyn, I think will make it. I think he's going to make a good impact for this team. He could really just stop the run. He can get some good tackles on the running game with 73 tackles and get to the quarterback as well.
A safety position, I think probably their best overall, strongest position there on that Vikings defense. Jamarcus Sanford, the strong safety, and also an Andrew Sendejo, who should come in and provide some solid depth there behind a Harrison Smith, who is an up-and-coming, real superstar caliber player. I give the safety position about a B. I may even go for the stretch here. That's about a B+ caliber safety unit. Steven, do you agree? Boy, Steven.
We lost Steven here, but I'll go. So Harrison Smith, I think is a type of guy that's really going to be an up-and-coming type of player. You just got to give him a little bit more time. 2 interceptions, not too bad with 58 tackles. I think safety positions have just been getting better and better in the NFL. I think that's what you're going to get out of Harrison Smith. He keeps on developing over time. Jamarcus Sanford.
Jamaica, that's awesome. Jamarcus Sanford.
Oh, jeez. Okay, no one heard that, but.
Everybody heard that, Robert.
All right, Steven, you're the one that didn't talk. So
Harrison Smith, not a lot expected out of him. This secondary core gives it. I'm going to give him a B-.
All right. I'll go with a B-. too. I'm going to agree with Steven on that.
Although, obviously, different opinions there. Special teams as a whole, and then I'll even throw in the grade for the coach as well. You have Jeff Locke, the punter, and the kicker is Blair Walsh, one of the best in the NFL. Special teams, you throw in Cordero Patterson. I give this special teams unit a solid A. What do you guys think?
I'm going to go with an A-. Blair Walsh, like you said, one of the best in the league, and I'll definitely agree with you. Definitely a lot to expect out of him this season, some 50-yarders. Maybe throwing a 60-yarder as well. I feel like he's got the distance for that. And then Jeff Locke, good punter. But kick return, like a Cordell Patterson, he did return one last season big time. So I'm gonna go with an A, but keep it at A. I'm gonna go with an A minus. Let's be a little bit. I'm gonna be really strict on them. If I'll be really friendly, I'll give them an A.
Oh, Robert.
I think I'm gonna give the special teams. I think I'll give them an A too. I like Blair Walsh. She's been in the league for a very long time. Went 26 for 30 last season, not too bad. And then Cordell Patterson, I think, is an up-and-coming star in this league, especially on special teams. I think he can return to the house next season. Then you go to Mike Zimmerman, a man that focuses mostly on defense, and that's where pretty much the secondary really struggles. The Minnesota Vikings, I think they just got to really focus on the secondary, and I think that's what Mike Zimmerman's going to help out with the Minnesota Vikings.
And then the coach, I think overall is just a B. You guys agree with? I mean, it's better than a C minus for Leslie Frazier. B overall for what looks to be a solid coach in Mike Zimmer.
For me, I'll give it a B minus. Obviously, I haven't seen anything yet of him. This is going to be his head coaching debut. He's got the defensive mindset, and defense wins championships. So let's see if he leads the way for Minnesota to maybe grab a title, not in the next couple of years. Let's say 6 years as his defense, grows into the system, and hopefully the offense improves based off, the front office transactions and all.
Yeah, Robert.
As I said, I already talked about Mike Zimmerman, but I think he's really going to help out the defense, and I think he's really going to boost. I think he's really just going to help out the secondary.
Overall, this is a team that, with the offense, gets a B, defense gets a B, coach gets a B minus, and the special teams gets an A minus. A very interesting up-and-coming 2014 Minnesota Vikings season. Will they make the playoffs? That is the burning question here for these Vikings. We don't really have a commercial break in store for you guys. I know you guys love commercials and timeouts and all that good stuff, but nevertheless, we may, in just a matter of moments here, get going with the schedule prediction show. And before we get started, I want to hand it off to the guys, and we'll start with Steven. Your thoughts on the Vikings as a whole, with the B as an offense and a defense, in that upcoming schedule coming in fair for the 2014 Minnesota Vikings.
I gotta say their schedule is a little bit difficult. They do have some road test matches. They take on the Saints this year on the road. They take on the Lions on the road. And they take on, the Bills. The Bills, I feel like they're an up-and-coming team. They'll be a threat to the Patriots this season in the NFC East. The AFC East, what we're talking about. I think the Vikings team, I feel like this year isn't going to be their playoff year as well. I feel like it'll be next year or 2 years until the Vikings will make it to the playoffs. I feel like it goes with the cost of firing your head coach. You need a year or two to mold the team as a whole, as a veteran coach, not just a rookie coach. But Mike Zimmer, I feel like he'll do well for a first-year coach. But they do have some tough matches at home as well, and I feel like they will drop a few hard games at home, in my opinion.
And then obviously this is a team that has the talent up and coming to become a real great ball club. Minnesota should be awfully interesting. This is the game, guys. NFL schedule. We're going to go through every single week of it, one game at a time, just real quick. Your thoughts on one sentence or less, a win or loss, and why. We'll get the NFL primetime music started, and we are ready for some football, ladies and gentlemen. The Minnesota Vikings kickstart the 2014 season with a Week 1 contest against the St. Louis Rams in the Edward Jones Dome. And personally, I think that the Vikings, right off the bat, come through with a big-time win, a surprising Week 1 victory. Robert and Steven, who do you think is going to win and why?
I actually think they get the loss here. I think at St. Louis it's a tough battle. Rams
Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties. Hopefully Stevens is a little better. Mr. Hughes, your thoughts on the Vikings Week 1 at the Rams?
I'm gonna go with a victory here. Vikings. I feel like they're gonna pull it out against the Rams. I feel like the basement of the NFC West in terms of talent and how their team is going, and not just into this season and into the future, next few years. So Vikings will win where Joe's going.
Robert, win or loss in Week 1?
Which one I said a loss.
All right, so right off the bat, the Vikings come through not only with a trip to the Rams, but Week 2, it's against the Patriots. Tough Week 2 game. I give them a loss. Robert, do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. New England's a tough team, especially the hard wide receiver core. Their secondary is not ready.
Steven.
I think I'm gonna go with the surprise side. It's gonna be a loss. Patriots are just the dominant team. They're just always good, and just every way, shape, or form, Patriots with the route over Minnesota.
Week 3 at the Saints in New Orleans, and I would be surprised if they're even in this thing. I give the Vikings a loss.
You don't see them competing at the Saints at all, especially at home. I think the Saints might.
Think of a number of games that the Saints have lost at home. None, in my opinion. The Saints win easy.
Robert has the team starting 0-3 to kickstart the year. Week 4, it's against the Atlanta Falcons, and I think the Vikings lose again. It's yet another loss, but this time to the hands of Atlanta. Robert.
I think they get the one here after an 0-3 start. For my predictions, they get that.
They're going to do in my opinion, because I'm going to go with Robert's choice. Going with the win, the Viking faithful will definitely fly the birds away. Those 30 Falcons away from the Metrodome.
A big upset prediction there for Steven and Robert. Week 5, both Robert and I predicted that the Packers would defeat at home in Green Bay those Minnesota Vikings. Steven, do you agree?
Yes, the Packers are pretty good at home. They're kind of the Saints. The Packers are a little bit more fragile than the Saints, but Packers is still a good enough team. They love being at home. They have such a good, big home field advantage against any team. They take the win over the Vikings.
In Week 6, it's home to take on the Lions, and in my mind, I think the Vikings lose one more time as they fall to 1-5. Robert, do you agree?
I don't know what you're talking about. I think the Detroit Lions actually lose to the Vikings and they get the win at home.
Steven.
Offense will be lackluster. The defense will be atrocious. Lions destroy the Vikings.
In Week 7, it's at Buffalo. Ralph Wilson Stadium the site to take on the Bills. Week number 7, after 5 straight losses, the Vikings finally get a win. Robert, do you agree?
Nick, I think they actually get the win over Buffalo. Buffalo is such a great team. They're part of a rebuilding type of process this season.
They're going to survive. They're going to lose. Bills, they're a better team than they were last year. I feel like E.J. Manuel will be able to pick and pocket the secondary from the Vikings, and the Bills win at home.
Week 8, it's at the Buccaneers. Both Robert and I thought that they would lose this matchup. Tampa Bay looks to be a real great ball club as the early 10 o'clock game. It's 2 straight road trips, this time to Tampa Bay. Steven, do they get the win?
Vikings go to 3-5.
One more game before the bye. It's home to take on the Redskins. Another early matchup, and I think that they come into the bye week with 2 consecutive losses. It's the Redskins that pull out on top. Robert.
Nick, I gotta say this is my surprise game here. Actually, the Vikings and at home. I think they bring a lot of momentum, and just coming back after a loss, they want to be the Washington Redskins, and they get the job done.
3-6, they lose.
Wow. In week number 10, it's a bye. So then in week 11, it's at Chicago. And guys, I think 14 days to prepare. Mike Zimmer's a great defensive coach. Chicago always seems to struggle on the offensive end. The surprise of the century, the Vikings defeat the Bears on the road in Chicago.
Nick, I don't think they get the job done. They're going to get the loss.
It's a loss for me. So they're 3-7 for me.
3-7, and it may be 3-8 after this game. They're home to take on the Green Bay Packers, one of 3 straight home games. And both Robert and I think it's a loss. Steven, do you agree?
They'll go 4-7. They'll take the upset at home. Because the Vikings fare a lot better at home against NFC North teams than they do against really anyone else. So Packers lose on the road against Minnesota. So for me, they're 4-7 right now after week 12.
In week 13, it's home to take on the Carolina Panthers. Understandably, a lot of free agency flux during the offseason, but I think the Panthers are just too good of a ball club, and they pull out a huge victory and overtake those Minnesota Vikings. Robert, your thoughts?
Nick, I think Matt Castle actually struggles against a hard-fought defense, the Carolina Panthers. Get a block.
Steve.
Cam Newton is going to scrape, in my opinion. But I think he's not going to scrape enough. Panthers lose in Minnesota. It's 5-7 now for the Vikings.
In week 14, home against the Jets, I think they lose. Robert, he thinks that they beat those Jets. Steven, do you agree?
I say 6-7. I spell a comeback in the standings. And the Vikings get the win here. I feel like the Jets coming into Minnesota, that's a lot of issues right there for the Jets. Jets. They lose in Minnesota week 14.
Week 15, on the road to take on the Lions in Ford Field. I think that the Vikings finally, following a 3-game losing streak, create a huge comeback and they win against those Lions. Robert, do you think that this is yet another winning streak for the Vikings in December?
No, this is going to be a loss for the Minnesota Vikings. I think they struggle against a team that's just gaining momentum and becoming a better team. They split the series 1-1 with Detroit.
I'm going to have to split the series, but it's going to be the opposite. The Lions are going to lose at home. Vikings will have upset thoughts in their mind. They're back at 500 for me, so they're 7-7 heading to the last 2 weeks of the season.
Week 16 on the road, Sun Life Stadium the site to take on the Dolphins. I think they come with a huge victory in December. It's back-to-back wins on the road for the Minnesota Vikings. Robert, do you make it 2 straight losses there for Minnesota?
I think actually, yes, it's going to be back-to-back losses for me. I don't think they can compete over Miami.
Miami, it's a split. It's a split decision for me, but we need to win or loss. So, flip a coin, and it's a loss.
Boy, we're flipping coins here on real important NFL predictions. Week 17 against the Bears at home. Still not enough. I think that Chicago's too much to play for. Week 17, that may be a playoff scenario there for Chicago. I give the Vikings the loss. The Bears pull out the W.
I think actually the Vikings get the W over Chicago and get a big win in Week 17.
Bears, I think this is going to be a Vikings win. Vikings are pretty good at home. And like I said earlier, I feel like the Vikings perform better against NFC North teams at home. They finished the year 8-8 for me. That's ridiculous.
After a 2-6 start, it's 8-8 for those Vikings, according to Stephen Hughes, which was the most favorable record, as I thought they'd go 5-11, and Robert thought they'd go 6-10. And a lot of, based off of my, observations right here, they start off the year for all of us. 1-5, 2-5, and they come back and they, with a vengeance, get back into the playoff race. I think with Mike Zimmer, defensive mind, may be tough to adapt early on, but Minnesota could come back obviously in December, it's more of a, with the conditions the way that they are in December and January. It's much more of a ground and pound type of a weather, which is why I think a lot of the victories for the Vikings, we think, come in the latter portions of the year. And, I mean, Steven, 8-8, I mean, even during the best of scenarios, I mean, do they go 500?
I feel like they do. We said they do have the talent. They do have the B grade all around from offense, defense, special teams, and the head coach. And I was thinking about this in my head throughout the show. You know, week 13, probably the game of the year, the game to go to if you're Vikings fans. Not the Patriots game, the Panthers and Vikings game. And I feel like that's pretty much the turning point of the year. It's win or go, just pretty much win and continue on through the next 4 weeks, or lose and pack yourself back to your house and get ready for the draft, and pretty much try to get the one of the worst records in the league, or try to get in there. But I feel like the Panthers and the Vikings, that's going to be a good game to watch, and I feel like the Vikings turn it around. That 2-6 start that you're talking about is a distant memory for them. They beat Carolina, and I feel like they end the year strong off that win.
Obviously, very interesting scenario. Robert didn't agree. He thought the Panthers were one of many teams to defeat these Vikings. 6-10, the final record. And, I mean, what's the difference between a team like that and what we predicted earlier, the Green Bay Packers you had at like 9-7 or even 10-6? The difference between them and, boy, those Green Bay Packers.
Nick, I think that when you know, this is going to be an interesting matchup between both of these teams. And what I've noticed from Green Bay, what's different about them is they have a quarterback. They have a leader of their team ready to go. What the Vikings don't have is they don't have a set quarterback yet. So I'm a little worried for this team, but they need to focus. They need to get something going, especially offensively. I mean, yes, you have like a consistent wide receiver core, you have a consistent tight end position, you have a great running back position, but you need a quarterback. And that's the issue. And Mike Zimmerman, I know he's a defensive guy, but you really need to work on your quarterback situation. That should be number one priority.
Yeah, it's actually pretty ironic. A lot of what where these teams finish have a lot to do with the quarterback position. You look at the overall grades. Robert, you thought they go 11-5. The Packers do. They have an B+ offense, but we both thought that they had a B- defense, averaging out at around a B overall. Same with those Vikings, a B offense, a B defense. The difference is the quarterback situation for the Packers is an A. Situation for the Vikings is a C+. That's the difference in what we think is either 11-5 or 6-10. Geez, 5 wins. I mean, that may be a little much, but a lot of it, the NFL has to do with the quarterback position, and I think the Vikings lose a lot of games 17-16, 20-23, just real close nail-biting games. And what really hurts for the Vikings is they play a real tough schedule. Obviously, the division is hard, but they also play, as I look down here, the AFC East with the Patriots and the Bills. Can't sleep on those Dolphins, and also the NFC East. You got to believe they're ready to play. So this is going to be a real interesting slate of games, and I want to send it over to you guys for the Spreaker question of the day, according to the Spreaker chat. You think AP can break the single-season rushing record this year? Steven, do you think they even have a shot? Does Adrian Peterson do to have that mark?
I don't think so, but I feel like after having a decent year last year, I think he'll get close to 2,000 yards. I think that he's going to get around 1,900 yards this year.
I think he's going to get about 1,700. I don't think he'll break it. I don't think he's going to break it this season, but the O-line isn't too bad, so I could be questioning myself. But I think still AP is going to be the better running back this year. In the 2014 campaign over LaShawn McCoy, I think he's going to get about 1,700 yards.
Listen, guys, I love Adrian Peterson, but there's something in my mind that says he's not going to have – this won't be one of his best seasons. There may be something that happens to Adrian Peterson. I mean, and even last year, injuries. He, towards the end of the year, really kind of limped towards the finish line, literally and figuratively. And just that Vikings offense really self-destructed in a season that ended subpar for Minnesota as well. Obviously, want to thank the person who put that in the chat inbox. It's just listed under National Sports. Nevertheless, Minnesota, different thoughts, but overall, a similar result. They just need a quarterback and maybe some pieces on the defensive end. We're going to start with you, Robert. A couple of lasting thoughts here for these Minnesota Vikings.
The Minnesota Vikings, kind of an average type of team. I gave them a 6 and 10 just because they're going against playoff teams. This isn't an easy schedule for them this year, but you look at, I think the season after that, you're going to see an easy schedule, and they're going to make it in the playoffs. I think 2 years from now, this team's going to be good. It's kind of be like Tampa Bay. Nick, we talk about some of these teams are going to have low records next season, but are going to have high potential. But besides that, I think the Vikings, man, I think their offense is going in a good direction. The defense, the secondary needs to work a little bit more. I gave them low grades on the secondary just because I know Xavier Rhodes is going to just get better. And I know a lot of people talked a little smack about him, but hey, this guy maybe didn't have interceptions, but he can break up a lot of passes. And that defensive D-line is pretty much going to carry it's going to carry the defense. And offense, last thing I got to say is, AP, man, you better help out this team, because if you want to get over a 6 and 10 record, you're really going to have to work your butt off.
Steven, 8-8, Minnesota 500 still, I'm sure you believe, is short of the postseason. You had them losing a number of key NFC North games in that division. What's the difference between, what this team needs to do between now and in the coming years when they could potentially reach the next level?
I give them a formidable 8-8 because the talent that they have is pretty good. Going into the future, they will need to improve. They'll need to find a solid quarterback. I feel like Matt Castle will not be the future answer for the quarterback spot. I feel like Teddy Bridgewater will be able to take over that spot, or the Vikings will go big in the free agent market, or they'll go to the draft again. But that is worst case scenario for Teddy Bridgewater. I feel like Teddy Bridgewater will turn out to be okay, to be more of a Michael Vick of right now, not Michael Vick of the past. I feel like this defense is going to do as well. Kevin Munwin, he's solidified for 4 years. Hopefully his production proves vital for the passing defense for the Vikings, as well as Chad Greenway, and hopefully the rise of Anthony Barr will lead to better defensive success from the Vikings. And I feel like Mike Zimmer will transform this defense. He transformed the Bengals defense into one of the best in the league for consecutive years, for sure. That's not even an understatement. And I feel like he'll do the same thing for the Vikings as their head coach. Providing a lot of influence and doing what he does to produce the best in the league. So I see a steady rise in success in the next few years. But I would really like Adrian Peterson to be in the Super Bowl. But that might be a long stretch. That'll be a big stretch for the Vikings. But at the same time, I see a lot of good things to come from the Vikings very soon.
Next week, guys, as we are getting ready to wrap up here, St. Louis Rams, the next team breakdown. Real quick, your guys' thoughts, Robert. St. Louis Rams, they basically limped their way out of the postseason last year. Jeff Fisher, a great coach. Do they reach to the next level?
I don't think they're going to reach to the next level. I think they're just going to come short. I know we covered the Cardinals, but with suspended Darrell Washington, Nick, this brings a lot of thought about, I think the Rams could maybe do better than the Cardinals this year. The Cardinals do not have Darrell Washington. He makes a big impact on that defense, and I did say that on the Arizona Cardinals show, our very first NFL team breakdown. But, Nick, I think the Rams could probably get a winning record, and I think the Cardinals could fall to maybe a 7-9 record like the Rams did last season.
Steven, is this a playoff team, the St. Louis Rams?
No, rebuilding team. I don't feel like they have a confident quarterback. Sam Bradford has been injured, and his performance has been shaky. And for the rest of the team, it's improving, but I feel you have to give them 2 years, and especially since they're in a very difficult NFC West that keeps on getting more difficult, with the Cardinals team that's getting better alongside of them, with the Niners and the Seahawks team that made it to the NFC title game last year. So everything keeps on getting harder for the St. Louis Rams.
That is Stephen Hughes, huge analyst here on National Sports. The commissioner is Robert Dieters, and I'm your host, Nick Rice, here live on a Thursday night. Make sure to tune in the next few days. Potentially, I think a Sunday night would be a great time to get a couple of shows out of the way. Nevertheless, NFL team breakdowns, make sure to tune in on Facebook and Twitter as well. This is your host, Nick Rice, signing off. Don't drink and drive, or don't drink at all. Thank you, guys.